Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Romano. In today's video, we are going to be talking about gold prices and whether or not the US government is going to back the US dollar or the digital dollar that's coming out by gold and silver. Based on the commodities prices for the gold chart, this chart does not make any sense. Because when you have a stock market collapse like we have since December 31st of 2021, as you could see, these 9 months, 10 months, the stock market keeps going down and down and down. The volatility is not there to have a 1 or 2 day stock market collapse because this is not the typical collapse. This is interest rates affecting the markets, revaluations happening around the world, globalization coming to an end, and every country around the world taking back their manufacturing because they can no longer sustain borrowing money to keep their government afloat, like our government has been borrowing money. Let's look at what could happen, all right? I'm not psychic, I'm not God, but based on what I analyze, gold prices and commodity prices should go through the roof when the stock market goes down, meaning that you have a really bad year, a stock market collapse. It's called an inverse relationship. So the inverse relationship is, if the stock market's been going down, then why hasn't gold prices gone through the roof? It should have surpassed $2,000, but it hasn't. And recently, you'll notice that the gold prices have gone up and down $100. That's a huge, huge issue that needs to be discussed. Because that's telling me that there's people that are selling their gold bullion, but then there's also people that are buying gold bullion or gold coins. And it's causing just a bad chart. In other words, creating volatility. When there's volatility in a chart, meaning a stock chart or a gold price chart, whatever it is, that means that there's a lot of people changing. There's a lot of tug of war that's happening. So I think it could possibly be because people are afraid to hold gold bullion if the US government is going to basically back their currency by gold and silver. Now, originally, Richard Nixon had taken us off the gold standard because of a reason. Okay, there was only so much gold in the world to back the dollar, and it came to a point where you could no longer create dollars and continue to back it by gold. Does that make sense? So they took us temporarily off the gold standard, and it was not supposed to be forever. It was just supposed to be for a certain amount of time. And I see in history, if you analyze history as well, you see what's going on during Richard Nixon era, okay? 1930s, there's huge war going on. A lot of countries are being devastated. The 1940s, the war, whatever. And so America became a global power because of the atomic bomb, 1940s, mid-1940s. And since 1945, countries around the world basically agreed on reserve currency to be the US. Okay, they all agreed on that because of the atomic bomb, that we became a world power. England, UK was losing their power as a dominant power, etc. Please remember to do thumbs up. It's right there if you want to say thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much. I don't think this was the best thing, but it happened. Because of that time period and afterwards, the US government was funding other governments to rebuild their country by lending them loans. Now, whenever a country does something for another country, there's always, well, if we do this, then you have to do that. That's negotiation, basically. And at the government level, that's why it's so difficult to change things. Now, of course, if you have a kingdom and you have a monarch that has absolute power, they can change things very fast. But we don't have that today. We have a government that negotiates. So with the advent of the wars being over, the US government kept lending those countries that were devastated by war funds to rebuild their country. In return, the government said, we will lend you money, but you have to buy our products. And they were forced to buy American goods. At a time when the dollar was very strong compared to those European currencies, which was literally pennies, so you could just imagine what it was like to buy clothing from America. Only the rich could. Or sneakers or shoes or whatever it was that was American made. It was a fortune. So it's such a fake ideology that we were given in the 1990s that they said it was too much, it cost too much to make it in America. It's cheaper to have it made in other countries. That was full of baloney. So they said, again, we'll lend you money, but you have to buy our products. Then you've seen the American manufacturing boom of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. Then it ended that those countries were, again, they were stabilized. So the US government was not making deals based on, we'll lend you money, but you have to buy our products. They changed. Now you have Richard Nixon come in, saying that we're going to get rid of the gold standard. It was temporary if you read that bill. And they started to increase how much currency, how many dollars were in the world. Because other countries were holding the dollar as like a piece of gold, a value, because they knew it was so stable. So because they had to do that, and because of that, the dollar was rising too much, and it would have created like an inflation back then. There would be no dollars in circulation because other countries and other people in those countries and Americans were holding the dollar as like a savings vehicle or a piece of gold coin, etc. Now, what they really should do is hold the gold coin instead of the US dollar, but whatever. Or diamonds, even better investments, the perfect investment. So now, by the 1980s and 90s, that's why you've seen so many manufacturing go bankrupt. I know so many people and their parents that lost not everything, but they also lost their pensions. Again, the US government changes our pension, that the actual company can't hold a pension. We have to hold a pension at 401k, etc. And that led the way to the banking system to grow to what it was. It was no longer savings and loans, it became the investment bank. Because you had interest rates keep going down and down and down, if the government wants to borrow money, isn't it cheaper to lower interest rates? And so exactly. So our government became the policeman of the world, late 1960s, 70s, and 80s, 90s, and then finally that came to an end after the Obama administration. Our country could no longer sustain and borrow money and survive in the future. And so now you have a $30 trillion debt, but you have to remember, you don't have to worry about that debt. Okay? Because in 50 years, that debt will be pennies, or they could actually pay off the debt really fast by putting tariffs on all imports. If you calculate how much imports there are every year, and you put, let's say, 20% tariff, which is not a lot, but you make it equal amongst every country has to pay tariffs, the deficit will get paid off within a decade, not even a decade. So that's why our government is so resilient that they're never really afraid to do anything. Don't look at the political end. That's the icing of the cake. That's what we see. But the actual people that control and manage our government are the employees of the government, not the senators. The employees tell the senators and the government what to do. Since we are no longer a policeman of the world, that they pulled out of the Middle East, next you're going to see the wars start happening globally. In other words, they'll start World War III. And you'll have, again, the same cycle repeat itself. Right now, in order to get these people to continue to buy our debt and not literally throw all these papers in the garbage and have a terrible collapse in our entire government and our currency, they're raising interest rates once again. So when there's wars, they lower interest rates. When there's no war, they increase interest rates. So I guarantee you the war will start within 3 to 5 years officially, because they'll have to lower the interest rates, and in order for them to get them to buy the government's debt right now, the interest rates have to go through the roof to get people to start saving money. And you also have to remember that when they back the dollar or the digital currency by gold, a gold standard once again, they can't have the public owning the gold bullion and the governments. That doesn't happen. So they will confiscate your gold bullion. They will offer you a certain amount for whatever that market rate is, but you have to remember what's happening in the gold charts right now. It's going up and down, trading sideways. Other people that know what's actually going on, they are already telling their family members, governments around the world, dumping their gold bullion, portfolio managers that kind of know what's happening in the charts, etc. And so that's why gold prices have not skyrocketed during this stock market collapse. You need to be very, very careful of the last week of October of 2022. Please bear in mind that's a stock tip. So something's going to happen then. And I noticed that in August of 2022 when I did my market analysis. I also noticed it in 2021 August when I did my yearly forecast. You have to remember that I could be off a couple of weeks. So maybe it has happened, or maybe it hasn't. So I'm just telling you to be very prepared for a turn down in our markets. I don't know if they're going to raise interest rates even higher. Of course they have to. They've already been telling us that, the markets are still going up. Real estate prices still haven't dropped as much as they should. But the real estate market is going to be a 2 to 3 year turn down. It's not going to be overnight that you see a 20% discount. Although I'm already seeing discounts in my neighborhood, in my state. Of course, other states aren't receiving that yet, but you have to remember, it's just a matter of time. So the next 5 years, real estate prices will continue to go down. There will not be such a shortage because you're not going to have corporations being a competitor in the real estate markets. And so that's going to push the price further. And I predict a 30% drop in the real estate market. But Ray Dalio and others are saying a 50% drop. Yeah, in resort villages, a 50% drop is natural. But a 50% average drop, that's a lot. And that's really scary to know that. And for it to happen, figure the percentage of corporations that own real estate in America, whether it's China or American corporations or European or whoever it is. If they can't pay their mortgage, what happens next? They start liquidating, and that creates volatility in real estate prices. That's the issue, and that's really scary. I want to thank you so much for watching my channel. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't, and please do thumbs up if you haven't to say thank you, Anthony. It's right there, and it doesn't bite to press it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.